I give word to our next keynote speaker, Heng. I can see you smiling. Heng will be here with us talking about the cultivated person, what Confucius and Chinese tradition say about Bildung. And Dr. Heng is from China and Singapore, and he's a fellow at World Academy of Art and Science. Heng, the word is to you.
Thank you very much. Through the wonderful thinking we are celebrating, actually, the World Bildung has selected a wonderful day, and today is our Mid-Autumn Festival Day. And that's symbolized gathering together. The family has to go back. So tonight I'm expecting my daughters to come back home and eat with me in a dinner. And then after that, we will eat some mooncake. So that's really a good symbol.
Beautiful.
And if we look at the Chinese Bildung, and everybody think about Chinese Confucianism, in actual fact, we have to look back much, much longer than Confucius. That's 5,000 years from now. Basically, when the human beings have the common wish and common goals, just what Noema has mentioned, happiness, Ubuntu, I am because we are, etc., etc. That was the beginning. And those knowledge or those informations have gathered, then formed actually the basis of Taoism, if you know that word. So that was quite long ago, but at that time there was no language, in a sense, a written language, in a sense that commonly used. It's not before thousands before Christos, in the Zhou dynasty, that starts actually in a much more regular written form. So nowadays we try to specify indigenous culture and non-indigenous culture is when the culture can be written, because written tool becomes actually a tool of the control dynasty or emperor or tribe master, etc., etc. Who knows? That's interesting. So this is now we classify that in indigenous culture today. So after in the Zhou dynasty actually, and also at that time, the first book happened in Chinese culture, in Chinese literature. That's the book of change, I Ching. And why we can say that? Because that has used those examples happened in the war between Zhou and his previous emperor. So all the trigrams which you understand, you know, with octograms which are the Chinese using, Bagua, etc. The symbolized history was 1,000 years ago, before Christos. So Confucius was 500 before Christos. And during that days, actually, China has one emperor, single emperor. No, it's a common emperor. It doesn't have as a single emperor before the Qing dynasty, but before that, in Zhou is a common emperor, which we call it just like a democratic society. And people just give the words to him, and he doesn't need to conquer anyone. So there are many tribes, and all the tribes has its right to do things. Well, that happens that way, in such a way that Confucius came out with societal order. And that's why that was the beginning of the culture or the education of the Bildung. Buddhism came is around 100 after Christos in Han Dynasty. And we say that Buddhism came in with logic thinking, and that brought actually into Chinese. Since then, you see that 1,000 years or 2,000, 3,000 years ago, in Zhou Dynasty with Taoism, and then 500 years before Christos with Confucianism, and 100 years after Christos with Buddhism, and that mixed together actually a Confucian, when today we call that Confucianism, is actually a mixture of Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. So what are these principles? And I start really hesitating to use that value only one single word, because in Chinese, it's a value chain. It's actually a whole thing. The first thing is just like Moema has mentioned, it's love. And it's mindful love. The mindful love means engage, you do things for others, engaging your own heart. That's number one verse. And number two verse is that treat others like yourself. This, everyone knows that. But do things for others with your full heart. That's mindful love. So this is the first principle. And the second one, you already regarding the societal order, and that's 5 ethics. It is between the boss, your boss, or your superior and the subordinate, between husband and wife. What is the value between husband and wife? They have different functions. Between father and children, or parents and children, that's closeness. It's closer than others. That's your parents with you. And then you have your friends. So 5 ethics are defining the societal order. The third principle is already about mission. And that are 5 steps, or 6 steps altogether, actually. The first one is the mindset of the person itself. It comes from inner, and educate yourself, build up the solid family, manage your country, and finally govern the world with peace. So that's the mission. And number 4 is cosmopolitan vision, or visions. There are 2 visions, actually. One is cosmopolitan vision, and that one is world for the public. And this is actually the optimum goal of Chinese, but usually you can't achieve that. So there are another part as a vision which you can achieve, fair prosperity vision. And family is the world. So why we don't teach people, or why we do have 2 visions? Because one is too, obviously is too optimal, and the other one is too practical. The practical one, once your family is a world, you will create conflict with other families, and that we're destined to have revolution. And that's why people don't teach the fair prosperity, but the world for the public. That's the 4 visions. That's the four values which actually used until Song Dynasty. Song Dynasty is 1,000 years after Christos. And that was a time when China became crowded and no more empty. And at that time, people understand that you have to have a rule, and that rule is not among yourself, but you have to follow the nature. So that starts talking about human and nature in oneness. That is in Song Dynasty, 1,000 after Christos. And 2 sentences or 2 verses came out. One is envisage the nature, and the other one is eliminate human desires. So hearing all these verses, you see that is actually the origin of sustainability, what Chinese had. That's the 5th and the principle. So with that, actually, with these 5 elements, people will ask, are these all achieved at the same time? No, actually, we need to do that through the whole life. And even through the whole life, we say that in Chinese words that in the age of 30, you become independent. In the age of 40, you become non-confused. you be in the age of 50, you know what you will be or you are destined to do. In the age of 60, then you can hear the others saying and don't argue with them, and you can accept everything. In the age of 70, which I'm coming to, is the age that you can do anything you like, you won't run into regulations or constraints. Well, I hope I can achieve that. Now, that is the lifelong education for destiny. And the way of people to learn all these things is not to express your full expression. Happiness, if you are too happy, you will hurt your heart. If you are too sorrow, you will hurt your lung. If you are thinking too much, then you hurt your spleen, and your digestion will have a problem, etc., etc. So in the middle way, so the way of dealing things in the middle way, in that brand, in that brandage, that you can go up and down a little bit, but don't exceed it. You are thinking that well, what is actually related to the Western world? Well, the common values which we have is freedom, equality, democracy, legality, and belief, religion. And what is that related to what I just mentioned? I have used actually to demonstrate that with I hope that I can show you. So this is what I just mentioned about these 5 values. Value chains in the order of benefiting. So, and this is what I just mentioned, the common values you have. So if you look at these 2, the common values with the somewhere that you can align up with is the love. But the love is different in Chinese terms and in Western terms. In Chinese terms, as I just mentioned, it's actually a love for all. That means it's actually a mindful love. That means actually it's a water. So that the characteristic is water in element. And the Western love, it is actually love for all. And that's coming from the French Revolution, fraternity. And that is actually fire. So two love, Western and East, are in different nature. That's interesting. And this is actually the way thing, and two societies will have their balance through these 5 elements anyway. So the question is, or to me, is education in East and West a little bit different? They may have different expressions, but they are meaning the same thing. So the vibration will go on and keep the society in balance. That's my conclusion. Thank you.